This is the Doon trek, the stairway to heaven. It's really nice. The trail is getting steeper and steeper gradually, and the valley is also getting wider and wider gradually, so it's just getting bigger. I can see why it's called the stairway to heaven. That straight ahead is Doon. I made it, and the weather is amazing. It's clear, the scenery is amazing, there's nobody else here. It's fantastic, beautiful. The Doon trek is a trek in the Himalayas in India, in the state of Uttarakhand. This is one of the most famous treks in India. It's been around for a very long time. This is a very popular trek. It starts from a place called Sankri. Sankri is deep in Uttarakhand. It's very far away from the main cities of Dehradun, Rishikesh, Mussoorie, these places. It's a whole day on the bus just to get to Sankri. That in itself is an adventure. Going on a local bus in India, especially in the Himalayas, is an experience. It's quite hilarious. Mussoorie is quite a big city in Uttarakhand. It's a very touristy place, and there is a bus that goes from Mussoorie to Sankri. Apparently it goes every day. But getting local bus information is quite a challenge because people tell you all sorts of different things. You never know where to get the bus, what time it actually comes, when it's supposed to come. So eventually I got the bus from Mussoorie, I got on the local bus, and it took me to Sankri. It took about 12 hours. Now once you get to Sankri, the actual start of Doon is a place called Taluka. Taluka is about 12 kilometers down the road from Sankri. Sankri, there's a few hotels. I just rolled up there and I went in and asked for a room. And there was a room available for 400 rupees, which is fine. The hotels are not that great, but don't expect anything fancy out in these areas. That's what you do when you go on a trek in India. That's the way it is. It's going to be pretty basic. It's going to be rough. In Sankri, there are a few hotels. There was a few dhabas where you can get some food, which was really nice. You can get the standard Maggi noodles, and you can get the parathas. There's generally veg food up in the mountains, unlikely to get meat. So generally vegetarian. When you get to Sankri, from Sankri you have to get a taxi to Taluka. There's no local buses because the road's really bad. Or alternatively, you can walk. It's like 12 kilometers. Loads of people were basically mobbing me in the dhabas, claiming to be guides. Some of them were guides, some of them were not, but the point is they were trying to insist that it was compulsory to take a guide. It's difficult to get information on whether it is compulsory or not because they will insist that it is compulsory just so that you take a guide and you pay them. It is not compulsory to take a guide on Doon. You can do it by yourself, because I wanted to do it by myself. I didn't want guides. I don't like doing it in groups. I like to do the treks by myself. And Doon you absolutely can do by yourself. You don't need a guide. It's not a difficult trek. You won't get lost. The trail's very, very clear. So the road ends in Taluka. Immediately the trail starts. You can start walking straight away. And the trail basically follows the river right the way down to Doon. It's very, very gradual. There's no really steep section. And the valley gradually gets wider and wider. That's the incredible thing. It starts off very narrow. It's a very narrow valley. As you keep going further down, it just gets wider and wider and you get higher and higher. When it comes to facilities, there is a town called Osla, roughly halfway between Taluka and Doon. Now in this town there are homestays. So you can roll up there and just ask somebody, like, is it okay if I can stay with you? And they'll charge you like only 500 rupees or something like that. You know, I think I stayed for 2 nights in Oslo, and 2 nights I had a room to myself and breakfast and dinner, and it was about 1,200 rupees. It's really fine. You'll easily get homestays because they'll take anybody in if there's a trekker. That's the sunset in Oslo. This is the village I'm staying in a room up there. So Doon is about 13 kilometers that way. Beautiful sunset just there. There's no other accommodation unless you carry a tent. You can stay at the campsites, but I wasn't carrying a tent, so I had to stay at the homestay. What you do is you start in Taluka. Day 1 is Taluka to Oslo. Stay in the homestay in Oslo, and then day 2 you go Oslo to Doon and then back to Oslo. I'm about 7 kilometers from Doon, and I've stopped to have a rest, a little bit of a picnic. Got a whole block of cheese all the way from England on Doon. So I'm just smashing this. Came all the way from the end of that valley, and now we're finally getting to the big mountains. We're just having a rest for about 15 minutes, and there's absolutely nobody here. I haven't walked past anyone for like the past 2 hours. After Oslo, there's nowhere to stay unless you are carrying your own camping equipment. But if you're not carrying camping equipment, you have to stay in Oslo. So you have to do Oslo to Doon and then back to Oslo in the same day, which is what I did. It is possible. It's quite a long day though. You have to start really early. Bear in mind, after Oslo, there's absolutely no facilities whatsoever. So you really have to get there and get back. You want to get back before it gets dark. You need to have an early start in Oslo, get to Doon, see Doon, and then get back to Oslo. So when you get to Oslo, initially, you have to stay for 2 nights. So it's Toluca to Oslo, day 1. Day 2, Oslo to Doon and back to Oslo. And then day 3, Oslo, back to Toluca, back to Sankri. The road obviously is there from Toluca to Sankri, but when I got to Toluca, there was no taxis. I was pretty tired, so I probably would have taken a taxi, but there was no choice. So I had to walk from Toluca back to Sankri, which was an extra 12 kilometers, so it was probably about another 2.5 hours or so. There was just no taxis available, so I couldn't get a taxi. But I got back to Sankri by the end of day 3. The only problem with this trek is the accessibility, and this seems to be a problem in most of the really good Himalayan treks. Getting to the start in itself is, in most cases, it's harder than the actual trek, because the roads are all these windy, crap roads most of the time in the mountains, so it just takes ages to get anywhere. And these good treks, they're really deep in the mountains, you know, they're not near the plains at all. To get to the best treks, you've got to travel, especially if you're going from Delhi. It's like 2 days on either end just gets wiped out traveling just to get to the start and then to get back. But the trek itself is fabulous. It's absolutely worth it, the Doon. It's a very popular trek, but I went in November. There was hardly anybody there. I had the whole place to myself. Beautiful scenery, clean, fresh air, amazing scenery of the mountains, amazing river flowing through, and beautiful forest. I think most people can do this trek, even if you're a beginner. It's not a difficult trek. Yeah, the second day, if you're going from Oslo to Doon and back, it's a long day, but it's not a difficult day. As long as you start at sunrise, you shouldn't have any problem, and most people will be able to do it. And the other thing is as well, it's not very high. The maximum altitude at Doon itself is about 3,700 meters, about 11, maximum 12,000 feet. It doesn't go above 12,000 feet. So you should be okay with the altitude. Before you get to Oslo, there are a couple of shops on the way from Toluca to Oslo where you can buy snacks and you can get Maggi, biscuits, that kind of basic stuff. So that's not really a problem. Water you can get from the homestay. They'll boil water, drinking water for you. So that's not a problem. The homestays do have toilets. They have the Indian style toilet, but it's very clean. All in all, this is a very good trek. It's a good beginner's trek. You get amazing scenery. There's some challenge. There's enough of a challenge. It's not like easy. There's challenge, but not too much challenge that it's gonna really wear you out and tear you down. It's a good trek for everybody. This is the view from Doon. I'm the only person here. I haven't seen anybody for about 4 hours. And occasionally you just see like a shepherd carrying some firewood. But yeah, there's hardly anyone here. Fantastic. Oh, I'm just chilling here for a bit, taking it all in. Oh, tired, but it was well worth the journey. You have to travel a very long way to get here. And that's what the view that you get. And if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel to see some more trekking vlogs. Thanks for watching.